Hey, I'm Anthony Romano, and this video is going to be on using fat fasting to recover from an aggressive fat loss phase. So, even though I'm a big advocate of using methods that will not tax the body or downregulate hormones when somebody's doing a cut or an aggressive cut for that matter, the point is a lot of people, inevitably, once you're trying to break down to the really lean body fat levels, you will encounter some sort of problem like that simply because the amount of energy you're consuming totally is putting an extra demand on your body. Okay, if you're going to consume 1,000 calories, it doesn't matter if it's the most nutrient-dense food in the world, per day. If your body needs 3,000, then your body will not deem it a priority to keep your testosterone, your sex drive, your menstrual cycle, whatever it may be. It will not deem that as a priority to be in the highest capacity and the most appropriate optimal level that it should be. So one of the keys that I use to do this is rather than simply reverse dieting, I will use fat fasting as a way to take in adequate nutrients. And for a lot of people, this is a really good way to balance out because of certain nutrients and techniques I'll speak about in this video. On that note, I would ask you to please like the video, and that's one of the most helpful things you can do for me, because that shows YouTube that people like my video and they will show it to more individuals who are interested in this type of stuff, and that helps me tremendously to grow my page. So I also have a ketone giveaway, a keto supplement giveaway from some of the highest quality keto supplements out there. Rules are in the description. It's very easy and you can win some free ketones. On that note, subscribe to this channel and follow my Instagram as well. The primary reason I will use fat fasting as a way to not rebound, but sort of gently progress out of an aggressive fat loss phase is that basically it allows you to take in adequate nutrients, adequate calories, but it does so in a way that's not going to spike your insulin. And a lot of people are solely stuck in this, frame that calories are the only dictator of metabolic functions in the body. That is one side of the coin, in my opinion. It's, of course, one way to look at things, but that's the quantitative approach. This video is focusing on the hormonal approach, the qualitative approach. And, of course, both sides of the coin can veto each other out. The main point of this video is going to dive in some of the hormonal-focused strategies that will help you to balance out your lifestyle if you came from an aggressive cut. Now, like I said, the primary reason this works is because it does not spike your insulin, which is the fat storage hormone, and which is generally the key and the sort of doorkeeper of when fat can get stored. Now, there are ways to store fat without excess insulin. However, for the most part, insulin is one of the primary dictators of fat storage. So, fat fasting doesn't spike your insulin because fat is very, very, very minimally insulinogenic. It has a very, very tiny spike. Protein will spike it a little bit more, and carbs will spike it a lot. And that's another reason why, when people rebound from coming from this state where they've been in a very, very aggressive, low-calorie, demanding state where their body is thinking, holy shit, we are in a famine right now. What that's going to communicate to your body is the moment you have insulin spikes coming back in, your body's going to say, well, it's going to be slightly more insulin sensitive, but not necessarily to the tissues you want it to be. Granted, it will be for probably most tissues in the body, but at the end of the day, the thing is, your body's going to perceive we were just in a huge scarcity and we need to really counterbalance and rebound, because that is what would keep you alive in a sort of primal historical environment. So when you think about our development as a species evolutionarily, if we did not have the ability to super compensate for certain, lifestyles, then we would not have survived past several generations. If we didn't have the ability to add loads of fat after coming from a serious famine, we wouldn't be here. And that's actually why high sugar and fat tasting foods, right? Foods that combine both those macros taste really good, because it's an indication to your body that what you're receiving is two forms of energy, and it's going to be very easy to store, and your brain lights up with dopamine because of that, because your body basically received the message that, hey, you're going to live till next week because we have an abundance of energy here, you're going to feel great, you're going to live. That's basically why we respond so well, and that's another reason why, even if you manage that calorically in a decent way where you're not super far over your calories coming from a reverse diet of some sort, then you still may be subject to storing extra body fat more than you want, because you're still receiving an adequate amount of insulin, you're receiving it in the combination with fats perhaps, and when you simply take the approach to eliminate one or the other, you're going to minimize the effect that basically it has on de novo lipogenesis, which is the body's creating of new fat cells. So one way to really minimize that is by doing fat fasting, because fat fasting does not combine the sugar and fat, and you cannot really make the argument that you should cut out fat and just do it with carbs. Okay, some people will say, oh, why can't I just, reverse diet with only carbs? Because your body needs fats. They're the precursors to all the hormones in your body. You will feel abundantly better if you simply consume fats instead of if you don't consume fats, you will feel like shit. And that is something that's very well documented. But you also want to prioritize high quality fats. And some of the most common ways for people to integrate this is a bulletproof coffee, which is very nutrient dense because it uses grass-fed ghee or butter. And of course, MCT oil is a nice little energy boost. But that's not the only way to do this stuff. I encourage you to look into my other videos of fat fasting to learn how to do it properly. But this video is mostly focusing on using it as a tactic to reverse diet, because you're not mixing the fat and carbs as much in your diet predominantly. You're also not spiking the insulin as much. And it's a way to still get in nutrients while your body is perhaps in a bit of a famished state. And you will certainly feel a lot better because you have those hormonal precursors coming in because of the fats themselves. All sex hormones in the body need cholesterol to basically be created. And again, even if you're in a state where you are low calorie, the presence of fats, which are a larger energy source, is something that will affect your leptin sensitivity. So leptin is basically like the store manager of all your energy resources. Insulin's like the micromanager in a certain way. But for leptin, if it sees that you're taking in very calorically dense food, it basically, your body will feel, okay, we can take it easy a bit. We don't have to down-regulate hormone production as much. Basically, your body relaxes a bit because fat is so calorically dense. It's 9 calories a gram, which is why everybody's afraid of it, but it's a better fuel. And your body sees, holy shit, we have fat coming in. Hallelujah. Because it is not going to feel as stressed out. If I'm making this like personified here, it's not going to feel as stressed out because the presence of that calorically dense food is going to relieve your body in a certain way. And again, minimize some of that demand for, fat storage because your body was in a previously famished state. And it's going to do that in a way that doesn't raise the insulin, it doesn't combine sugar and fat. And of course, you can still have a moderate amount of carbohydrates in your diet if you'd like after the fat fast. But again, there are better ways to incorporate that or not. On that note, I also encourage doing a diet that's not going to tax your hormones or your adrenals or basically down-regulate your thyroid of any sort when you actually are aggressively cutting. And I will explain that after I drink some water. Okay, so some of you may know that I'm a very big keto guy. I've been doing keto for 9 years, and I will tell you that it is undoubtedly the best way, in my opinion, to lose body fat in a balanced manner. Now, some people might be thinking, isn't keto very restrictive? You don't eat any carbs or sugar. It is restrictive of carbohydrates and sugar. That is the primary dictator. You don't have to be slamming the fat all the time, as this video might make you perceive, but because the only thing that's required for a keto state is the absence of carbohydrates. Now, on that note, a lot of times, because you're getting an abundance of fat only as a byproduct of cutting out carbohydrates, not because keto state requires you to have a shitload of fat, your body will simply use the fat from your body stores if you have a balanced amount of fat. The presence of those fats will be beneficial for, like I said, building hormones, receiving fat-soluble vitamins, so A, E, D, and K, which are vital for many of the processes in the body. When you do a keto-oriented approach or a fattier-oriented approach that doesn't combine too much carb with it, right, which would create de novo lipogenesis, fat storage, when you have a higher presence of fats, you are basically easing the burden of your body for hormone production. And that is why you will never hear me speak about having sex drive issues, testosterone issues. You'll never see my lifts in the gym be weak and me being burnt out. You'll never see that type of stuff in a sort of, overall health context from my videos, because I balance even the most aggressive fat loss cuts in a manner where it's simply by virtue of the ketogenic diet itself, allowing you to have more of those hormonal precursors. I understand that there are differing studies on these things, and I could show some studies right now, but I want you to understand this, and it's not just me throwing data at you. The way I like to explain the keto diet to people is that it is our body's natural preferred way to burn body fat, and here's why. This is, again, a pseudoscientific argument here, so I'm not claiming this is fact. This is simply a theory. It just is a very logical theory, and I think it might resonate with you. When you think about our ancestors in a very, very historical context, before the agricultural revolution, before we had the ability to plant large crops of corn and wheat, the only ways we would be eating in the wintertime would be ketogenic, because in the wintertime, depending on where you're from, there's different variations. There would be some carbohydrates that basically would be fermentable, but most of them wouldn't last for longer than 2 weeks, and you certainly couldn't ship them over from Guadalajara if you wanted mangoes in the winter. So a large part of our body, metabolically, is through this seasonal metabolism. You can't get carbs in the wintertime. They don't grow. They simply do not grow. You can't get wheat, grains, you can't get fruits. Sure, you might have some fibrous veggies or fermented, whatever the hell is laying around from when the weather gets crappy before the snow hits, but even then it probably wouldn't be that digestible, and it's not even going to spike your blood sugar anyways. So most of the foods that are carbohydrates are not available for half the year. So keto is simply the reason people talk about it being so satiating for appetite is because it is the homeostatic mechanism where your body just changes all the processes going on so that you aren't as hungry. It basically downregulates hunger because insulin is not being spiked all the time. Even if you are eating large amounts of calories, or if you were just a killer hunter and eating, mammoths all day long, even then the fat would slow the release of blood sugar spikes you might get from excess protein, things like that. The point is, we are designed to burn fat in that manner because it simply makes the whole process easy without us having to count calories. None of that was around, and you would have to have an internal mechanism that basically communicates to you based on how you feel. And that is why people are so raving about keto, etc., etc. So in my opinion, that is another way where people would lose body fat in a way that wouldn't throw their hormones out of whack, because if it did, we probably wouldn't survive. If every time somebody lost body fat, and they did it in a way where their testosterone was just crashing to the floor, then we probably wouldn't be able to survive as well as we have and progress as well as we have in evolution. So that's another reason why there are logical cases behind ketogenic metabolism as a way to lose body fat without, throwing your hormones out of whack. Granted, many people, when they do this, they do go very low calorie. And like I said, the quantitative side can always veto out the qualitative side, and the qualitative side can always veto out the quantitative side. So, example, even if you do a ketogenic diet, if your calories are at 500 a day, 600 a day, you are going to deprive your body of something it needs, and your body will downregulate hormones. So you do have to be careful in any context. And that is another, cherry on top of this picture I'm trying to paint here, because you want to understand that it's all about tipping the scales towards fat burning, right? Adding a little bit more demand on your body to use its own fuel, but doing it in a balanced way. And keto is one way to do that. There are plenty of other ways you could do it as well. But even if you are going to have whatever kind of diet you want, I encourage fat fasting, and most people can do that as well, based on, the fact that it's vegetarian technically if you use grass-fed ghee, and there's a lot of other ways this can fit into your lifestyle. It is a very good way to get in some high-quality fats, get some nutrients that your body may be deprived of that are fat-soluble, and if you're coming from an aggressive cutting state, you've lost some body fat, so there's less stores of nutrition. And this is ultimately why I believe it's so easy to maintain a lean physique when somebody is fat fasting or doing keto in general, but fat fasting is one way to kind of, get the best of both worlds. Your diet can look like whatever the hell you want after that fat fast. And it, again, will improve that insulin sensitivity, which will minimize the amount of fat you store, and basically that sort of rebound effect many people get when they're reverse dieting. So, thank you for watching this video. I'm Anthony Hormonal. Follow me on Instagram. Subscribe. Like the video, please. And also join my ketone giveaway if you want to try this stuff out and try out ketone products that will literally put you in ketosis and make you feel like all the benefits that I explained in each of these videos. That is it. Peace.